Welcome to the Tech Mobility Podcast, brought to you by Playbook Investors Network, your strategic partner for unstoppable growth. Visit pincommunity.org to get started.
I'm Ken Chester. On the docket, Volvo stakes future on EX60. Have we reached peak shale oil? And the vanishing 16-year-old driver. To join the conversation, be it to ask a question, share an opinion, or to even suggest a topic for future discussion, call or text the Tech Mobility Hotline. That number, 872-222-9793. Or you can email the show directly, talk@techmobility.show. From the Tech Mobility News Desk, there's a lot being made of the grid. You can argue that the grid is old, needs to be updated. You can argue that demands on the grid are outstripping its ability to serve. You can argue that we're behind the eight ball, regardless of whether you believe climate change is real or not, regardless of how you feel about AI and data centers and EVs and all that stuff. The fact remains that the electrical grid in the United States is aging, and the fact remains that electricity growth is expanding, and they anticipate will continue to expand at an above-average rate for the next 10 years. A lot has been made on the supply side. Add renewables. Don't close coal plants. Bring nuclear online. Come up with something else, but add supply to the mix. What if we could do a little something about demand? Meaning, what if buildings themselves could help reduce demand, and by reducing demand, reduce pressure on the electrical grid? The one thing that I find hard to reconcile, and I do a lot of research. I read, electrical industry magazines and newsletters, and I look at what they're spending, billions of dollars. And I look at the alternative energy movement, wind, solar, some other stuff that they're doing. I look at EVs and batteries and all that. What I cannot reconcile in my mind are the reports on the one hand that the grid is old, it's aging, it's over 50 years old, it needs to be replaced. With all these billions of dollars that these utilities are spending, mainly, not so much for expansion, but maintenance, just trying to keep it going. Into this mix, for your consideration, is a recent article from Fast Company that talks about super insulating windows. And these particular windows, they're called the company that makes this is called LuxWall. That high-tech design are as energy efficient as walls. And the article actually purports that it could help save the power grid. That's a pretty strong headline. They didn't say that it could help reduce energy consumption. They actually believe that widespread use of these new energy efficient windows are so good that they could save the power grid. Them strong words. As utilities struggle to keep up with surging energy demand, they're starting to turn to an unexpected tool: windows that insulate like walls. Think of it like a thermos bottle in your walls, says LuxWall CEO and founder Scott Thompson, who worked in the semiconductor and flat panel display glass industry before tackling the Challenger windows. Now, anybody that's built a home in the last 20, 30 years realize that energy efficient windows aren't new. You talk about double pane, triple pane glass. You talk about E values. You talk about certain tint in the glass. Slight different tints perform different ways. That's been going on for years. But it's this radical design from LuxWall, a Michigan-based startup, that takes this even further. Rather than relying on the double or triple panes that you're probably used to, it actually uses a vacuum to block heat transfer the same way your Yeti tumbler can keep a drink ice cold or steaming hot while the outside stays close to room temperature. A vacuum. A vacuum. A typical energy efficient window might have an R value, which is the measure of a material's resistance to heat transfer, of R3. By comparison, LuxWall's windows have a rating of R18. 6 times better. Similar to a solid wall. Stop right there. The fact that you could use a window array in the place of a wall aesthetically could be better, particularly in retail applications. It lets more natural light in, which is always more welcome. And it gives designers just phenomenal other choices. If it can do all that, the possibilities, as they say, are endless. When they're used to replace single-pane windows, they can cut energy use by as much as 45%. 45%. LuxWall's using a vacuum system in place of double or triple pane windows. If you're replacing a single pane window, 45% reduction in energy use. Heating, cooling. Think about that for a minute. Because outside of your water heater, which is the number one energy sink in your home, because it's always keeping that water hot unless you own a tankless, but that's a different conversation. You spend most of your utility dollar heating that water. Yeah. Imagine if your windows could cut energy use by as much as 45%. Mic drop. I just put it out there. I want you to think about that for a minute because that's substantial. While some of the startup's first customers are obviously large building owners like JP Morgan Chase looking for ways to slash energy bills, makes sense to me, homeowners are beginning to adopt the windows for the same reason, particularly if you live in an area where utility costs are high, whether it is electricity or natural gas, particularly now. See, saving energy ain't necessarily about the environment all the time. In this case, it's all about the money. Because the payback, I mean, if you're saving almost 50% of your utility bill that now is reduced by putting these windows in, the payback's got to be totally awesome. On large projects, the payback period for the windows can be 3 to 7 years. Now, some utilities like Con Edison and Eversource are starting to offer incentives to use LuxWall as they look for new ways to help power the grid. If they could get enough people to use these windows to reduce demand, reducing demand is every bit as important of increasing supply. If you can reduce the demand, then you reduce your capital expenditures, both in transmission and distribution lines, all of that. You don't have to spend money or additional money or to bring on a new plant, which takes years and millions of dollars. By helping subsidize this, it's a lot quicker payback and it's a lot more obvious. Just imagine the savings. Changing a building that has a efficient of R2 to R18. They say the amount of kilowatt hours they're saving is dramatic. Windows, just another way people are looking at saving energy across the grid. Although the market is cooled towards EVs, Volvo is betting the farm on one such model. You are listening to the Tech Mobility Show.
business, opportunity doesn't wait, and neither should you. At Playbook Investors Network, we connect visionary entrepreneurs with the strategies, resources, and capital they need to win. Whether you're launching, scaling, or reimagining your business, our network turns ambition into measurable success. Your vision deserves more than a plan. It deserves a playbook that works. Playbook Investors Network, where bold ideas meet bold results. Visit pincommunity.org today.
Are you tired of juggling multiple apps and platforms for meetings, webinars, and staying connected? Look no further than AONmeetings.com, the all-in-one browser-based platform that does it all. With AON Meetings, you can effortlessly communicate with clients, host virtual meetings and webinars, and stay in touch with family and friends, all in one place and for one price. Here's the best part. You can enjoy a 30-day free trial. It's time to simplify your life and boost your productivity. AONmeetings.com, where innovation meets connection. Get started today and revolutionize the way you communicate.
To learn more about the Tech Mobility Show, start by visiting our website. I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. The website is a treasure trove of information about me and the show, as well as where to find it on the radio across the country. Keep up with the happenings at the Tech Mobility Show by visiting techmobility.show. You can also drop us a line at talk@techmobility.show.
Every great business starts with a spark, but taking it to the next level takes strategy, connections, and capital. That's where Playbook Investors Network comes in. We're your strategic partner for accelerating growth, navigating challenges, and capturing market opportunities before your competition does. Your business is more than an idea. Let's make it an impact. Playbook Investors Network. Your future starts here. Learn more at pincommunity.org.
Get yourself a lark, plenty of flash, lots of style and comfort, not much cash. Jazzy all around, loads of room in the back. Studebaker lark, saves you the jack. What's got jazz, speed and spark? Zip, zoom, style, room, 62 lark. Big car comfort, easy to park. You're gonna have a ball in the lark, the 62 lark.
Unfortunately, not enough people had fun in the 62 Lark, although I thought it was a cool car. In case you've never heard of the Lark, it's actually the Studebaker Lark. And if that rings a bell, maybe distant, Studebaker was one of what they call the Small Five Detroit automakers, actually. They're based in South Bend. They made cars after World War II. They were one of the last surviving companies as scale, money, and demand just brutalized them. They would merge with Packard, another one of the Small Five. They would stumble together into the 1960s, and by 1964, they were done. By 1966 in Canada, they were done. At least the automaking part of Studebaker was done. What was left that didn't make cars would survive for another few years until it got merged into another company by 1969, and then would go through a series of mergers like many companies did back then. But, and I think it was McGraw Edison that bought them in 69. But the Studebaker Lark, you still see a few around. I think it's an incredibly cute car, and it's a case of a company trying to make a lot with very little. And they tried, but the big three just wiped them off the face of the map. Between Ford, GM, and Chrysler at that time, regarded as the big three. And the big three had the muscle, they had the dealers, and they had the money. And Studebaker just couldn't compete. But the Lark was fun, and I liked that piece, so I wanted to share it with you because I thought it was just kind of a fun, bouncy little piece to open this segment with. With the end of the EV rebates in the United States, and the resulting contraction of the EV market, you would think, you really would, that smaller manufacturers in the marketplace would be rethinking their EV commitments and making the pivot towards hybrids and gasoline-powered vehicles. GM did, mostly. Ford did. A number of other automakers took a hard look at the landscape and did. Some didn't, but the majors did. In the case of Volvo, however, it's taking its boldest step towards becoming an electric-only automaker with the launch of the EX60, adding a model that will initially complement the automaker's all-time bestseller, the gasoline-powered XC60, and, most importantly, eventually succeed it. Wow. This is Topic A. Remember our conversations over the last 6 months. And I shared with you that automakers, regardless of where they're based, the United States, Europe, Asia, wherever, are global. Being a global automaker means you have to look at the entire landscape of all the countries that you operate in, because you may not realize it, but GM, Ford, Stellantis, they operate in hundreds of countries. And each of these countries or areas have their own rules and laws, traditions, demand. Markets are different. Here's something that has not changed. Regardless of where you fall in the EV argument, you're for them, you're against them, yes, please, no, never, go away, wherever you are, know this. In the rest of the world, EVs are still a thing. Fact about it, China builds half the world's EVs right now. Sell them. They're still number one far and away and growing. Volvo looked at the landscape, the global landscape. They looked at their competitors in Europe, particularly the BMW iX3, the Mercedes-Benz EQC. And they said, you know what? This is going to be a thing. We're a forward-looking company. Regardless of where we are today in mid-decade, EVs are still going to be a thing. And we want to be there. And we're all in. Now, that's not to say that Volvo has not adjusted their aspirations in its second time, but they're still all in. My question that I want you to consider, Volvo, which is owned by Geely, which is a Chinese company, by the way, what do they see that our domestic manufacturers ain't looking at? They're global. We've talked about how the head of Ford, Jim Farley, said, we got to adopt and we've got to respond to the Chinese threat or else. And in case you're thinking that the Chinese threat isn't real, 49,000 are being imported into Canada. They already sell trucks in Mexico right now. How much longer do you think before those brands start showing up in the United States? And by the way, if you think that the Chinese would never be in America, let me help you. They're already here. A number of brands you may not realize were made in China. And it may be a chance that what you're driving right now might have been Chinese made, regardless of the brand name on the hood. Food for thought. What they're looking at with this XC60 is they want to be in the forefront. Because they realize they need to be all in, this thing performed 10 firsts, and we have time. I'll read some of the firsts that the EX60 achieves. One thing I want to point out, this thing has a range, at least in Europe, of over 500 miles between charges. Their best model, EX60 in America, will be 400 miles. 400 miles. 400 miles. Why is that important? I've said many times, out here in the Midwest, unless you're 450, it's not worth it. Because of infrastructure, because of distance, because we're sparse out here. You need that. Plus, you need to also mitigate extremes in temperature, which will also sap your performance, either extreme heat or extreme cold. So if I've got a range in the 400, 500 range, that is my driving range, that even in the cold weather, that still means I've got a solid 350. And that's fine, because that's what it's going to take. they've got this thing priced competitively. It's actually priced less than a Lucid Gravity Touring and will match it or beat it mileage-wise. It's about 10 grand less than a Touring. And Lucid's right there with the Gravity. These folks are onto something. EVs ain't going away, folks. Volvo's doubled down. Lucid's still in business. Rivion's still in business in the United States. And they're going to continue to build EVs. Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis, hybrids and EVs. They're making a land office business. They're not walking away from it. And depending on what's going on in the world right now, it might turn out to be the best bet. That sometimes a little patience is worth it. Nothing lasts forever, so is the shale boom in the United States about to be a bust? This is the Tech Mobility Show.
You've got the drive. You've got the vision. Now you need the right partner to make it happen. At Playbook Investors Network, we power ambitious leaders with the tools, insight, and investment connections to move faster, grow stronger, and lead markets. We're more than advisors. We're your co-pilots in success. Because in business, standing still is not an option. Playbook Investors Network, fueling ambition, delivering results. Visit pincommunity.org.
Did you know that Tech Mobility has a YouTube channel? Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. Each week, I upload a few short videos of some of the hot topics that I cover during my weekly radio program. I've designed these videos to be informative and entertaining. It's another way to keep up on current mobility and technology news and information. Be sure to watch, like, and subscribe to my channel. That's the Tech Mobility Show on YouTube. Check it out. As the saying goes, what goes up must come down. In this case, it's the shale oil boom that made the United States the world's top oil producer. After years of flow, it's nearing a crucial turning point. Does that mean that we may have reached peak shale oil? This is topic B. We need to talk about crude oil in the United States. You and I need to talk about this. Let me first take you back, late 60s. Back then, conventional wisdom said that we would reach peak oil in the 1970s, meaning that our production of crude oil in the United States would peak in the 1970s and start to go down after that. The reason why that didn't happen is the development of computer models, computer programs, different ways of going after it, going into deep offshore drilling that new technologies made possible. Fracking made getting more oil out of existing oil fields better. Oil fields that were played out, the majors said, got a second life through fracking by putting that water and sand into the ground to pull up the remaining oil. Then there's shale oil. If you're not familiar, it is oil literally trapped in shale formations that they process to get the oil out. North and South Dakota, the Permian Basin down in Texas and New Mexico, these are formations of shale that are oil-laden, turned Williston, North Dakota into a boomtown. But there's a problem. Oil industry professionals will tell you that shale well oil output declines rapidly, with 80% of a well's total production occurring within its first 2 years, necessitating constant drilling. In other words, you never stop drilling. You got to constantly drill. Good news. In these formations, once you hit that pool, it's a matter of staying in that field. And as long as you keep hitting in the field, you're going to be okay for a while. But what happens when the field gets played out? This is what we're looking at now. The shale oil revolution that transformed the United States into the world's top oil producer is entering a new phase. one that could see America's hard-fought lead and energy erode in, get this now, fewer than 5 years. You're saying, where are you getting this drivel, Ken? Okay, stop. I'm getting it from Market Watch. They're not particularly known to be a liberal, tree-hugging organization. This is a business publication. Fewer than 5 years. We're sitting at 2026. That means between now and 2030. But there's a problem. Up till recently, the price of crude oil, a barrel of crude, West Texas Intermediate, which is the price, that is what they identify, that is what they price for delivery at Cushing, Oklahoma. That's where all the pipelines meet. That's where they price it. Had been running right around $60 a barrel. There's a problem with that. When these wildcatters, drillers, are working the math and they're looking at the millions of dollars they've got to spend to research, drill, capture, deliver oil into the system, $60 a barrel don't cut it. Particularly if you need to go into more high-risk areas, because let's be honest, like anybody, they went to where most of the oil was, the easiest stuff to get, they got. Now, as they venture out, they are getting into more difficult, higher risk, lower chance of return geological formations. Here is the biggest irony. As I mentioned, on average, shale oil well produces 80% of its output within the first 2 years. Down in Permian Basin, it plunges by nearly 90% after 3 years. This is according to the American Petroleum Institute. Constant drilling and reinvestment. Yeah. Here is the irony. The U.S. may be the world's largest producer of oil, but much of that output is light, low-sulfur crude that, get this, many domestic refineries, we're talking about those refineries along the chemical coast in Texas, were not optimized to efficiently process. Let me get this straight. The stuff with the less crud in it, our refineries are not equipped to refine it. Here's something I want you to think about, and I'm not going to judge at all. I put it out there for your consideration. It's in the article. And this article, because I want to give you dates, was dated February 19th. It was originally published on the 16th of February, about a month ago. They talked about oil from Venezuela. It's viscose, high sulfur crude. It's heavy, it's tar-like, it's ugly. Guess what? This is closer to the grades that many Gulf Coast refiners were originally designed to handle. That compatibility makes Venezuelan barrels commercially attractive to U.S. refiners. May I point out, as I am talking in the middle of March in the year 2026, the price of oil per a barrel of crude oil is hovering between $93 and $100 a barrel right now. A rate that, if sustained, could make Venezuela, all else being even, commercially viable. The problem is, down in Venezuela, it is not politically viable. Oil companies don't like risk any more than any large American manufacturer does not like risk. And because what they would be doing would be investment for 10, 15, 20 years or more, they need to know that the investment they make, wherever they make it in the world, is a stable investment that they will be able to get value back out of over the period of time they're willing to invest. So we have a challenge. Shale oil, we are seeing the end of it. We are going to have issues by the end of this decade. Question is, what do we do about it? We've shut down alternative fuels. We've shut down EVs. We poo-poo wind and solar. Nuclear's 10 years out at least. You got to think about this, folks. It takes years to bring new wells online no matter where you go. And it's going to take longer than 5 years, even if you open up federal lands for drilling. There are no pipelines. You got to build infrastructure. All that takes millions, if not billions of dollars and years to get it to market. In the meanwhile, what are you going to do? Food for thought. I wanted to share this with you. Back in the day, a driver's license meant freedom. Now to a growing number of teens, not so much. We are the Tech Mobility Show.
Are you tired of juggling multiple apps and platforms for meetings, webinars, and staying connected? Look no further than AONmeetings.com, the all-in-one browser-based platform that does it all. With AON Meetings, you can effortlessly communicate with clients, host virtual meetings and webinars, and stay in touch with family and friends, all in one place and for one price. Here's the best part. You can enjoy a 30-day free trial. It's time to simplify your life and boost your productivity. AONmeetings.com, where innovation meets connection. Get started today and revolutionize the way you communicate.
To learn more about the Tech Mobility Show, start by visiting our website. Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. The website is a treasure trove of information about me and the show, as well as where to find it on the radio across the country. Keep up with the happenings at the Tech Mobility Show by visiting techmobility.show. That's techmobility.show. You can also drop us a line at talk@techmobility.show.
In business, opportunity doesn't wait, and neither should you. At Playbook Investors Network, we connect visionary entrepreneurs with the strategies, resources, and capital they need to win. Whether you're launching, scaling, or reimagining your business, our network turns ambition into measurable success. Your vision deserves more than a plan. It deserves a playbook that works. Playbook Investors Network, where bold ideas meet bold results. Visit pincommunity.org today.
Did you know that Tech Mobility has a YouTube channel? Hi, I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. Each week, I upload a few short videos of some of the hot topics that I cover during my weekly radio program. I've designed these videos to be informative and entertaining. It's another way to keep up on current mobility and technology news and information. Be sure to watch, like, and subscribe to my channel. That's the Tech Mobility Show on YouTube. Check it out. Back in the day, yeah, I'm that old, teenagers would literally count down the days until we could get our learner's permit. Oh, I could hardly wait. I lived in the country. I could hardly wait. Long before the internet, cell phones, Facebook, TikTok, and the like, wheels were freedom. Saving enough to buy what we used to call a piece car, usually clunkers that cost less than $1,000. Fun fact, my first car cost $60. It was 11 years old. Yes, it ran. Sold it for $100. But yeah, it ran. If you had a car, it became a status symbol at school. Being able to roll into the parking lot. Being able to come and go as you wanted, of course, within your parents' rules, of course, as close as you could get to them. The open road beckoned. Today, the prospect of driving is intimidating many teens, while some just don't feel the need to drive. It's a story of the vanishing 16-year-old driver. This is Topic C. In 1983, 50% of 16-year-olds had their license. By 2022, it was 25%. What happened? A lot of things happen. How we define freedom changed. How we socialize changed. How we interact with our environment changed. And then, of course, you got us baby boomers, parents and grandparents running kids here, running kids there. Then you got Uber, Lyft. Who needs a car? And on top of all of that, cars are expensive to run. Gasoline, maintenance, even a little piece of car costs money to run. You got to put gas in it. You got to insure it. Tires every now and then. It needs a little maintenance to keep it running, even if you're just running around town. And typically, if it's like most households, you're either got the spare car that they bought for parts, or you got grandma's car. So you drive this big boat. Oh, my God. Back in the day, you didn't want to be seen with grandma's car. But, boy, hey, it was free. So, yeah, you might be driving this 2.5-ton, 20-year-old, big old thing. But you know what? Back in the day, it was freedom. Today, they don't want to do it. What do you think's going on? They actually have a name for it. They call it delayed driving. And it goes hand in hand with a broader trend. Gen Zers are falling behind older generations in a range of social markers. So it's not just the driving. They're waiting longer to couple off and start families. They don't go out as much and drink less alcohol, in part because it's so easy to socialize, shop, and order meals online. Yeah, well, about the alcohol part. Yeah, I tried it as a teenager. My parents broke me of that habit pretty quickly, so it was not a thing. It was for me and my best friend, Donald Truff, freedom. We go out and just hang out, roll. And we grew up in Massachusetts, in New England. But, oh, my God, just being able to hang out and roll and hang with my boy, and we just do stuff. You know, there was nothing else to do. We took a summer, my first year away from home. I rented a car. We went down and hung out in the Cape Cod all day because I had transportation. We could do that. It was a wonderful thing. But kids don't do this. They just don't. Gen Zs, according to those that watch this stuff, they're just slowing down the march into adulthood. They will eventually get their license, but really not at 16. Now, by comparison, I come from a family of drivers. I drove, my kids drive. Matter of fact, my middle child was driving without a license till we busted her and had to get her a license. So out here in Iowa, you got to have a license because it's the only way you're getting anywhere. And mom and dad, honestly, aren't going to be bouncing you everywhere. Because everywhere, I mean, in this state, you get in a car, you're driving 20 miles. I don't care where you're going. Going to rehearsal, going to high school, coming home, going to work. You're doing that. And typically out here, you probably got a part-time job, which means you need to get back and forth to work. You need a car. We are still one of the most car-centric societies in the world. In America, you still need a car. The challenge is what you have now between the changes in how we socialize and the fact that you've got parents and grandparents that'll give you a ride. I can't tell you how many rides, even now, for my 16-year-old, my oldest girl grandchild. Right now, although she's got her permit, thank God, I think. I'm not sure about that. But her brother, my oldest grandchild, is in college. He has his license. He has this license. All I'm saying is we're at a tipping point because there is a whole environment and a whole, I don't know what you would call it, structure around the older cars and keeping them running and getting kids licensed. Another thing, when I was in high school all them years ago, we had school-sponsored driver's ed. It cost a total of $50. What I hear now is most schools don't have those driver's ed programs anymore. And in some states like Ohio, you have to. Before you can even apply for your license, you have to show proof that you graduated from an accredited, established driving program before you can even go up for your license. And from what I can see, on average, at least there, signing up for a program like that is $700. In Massachusetts, when I was coming up, your parents could still, help you drive when you got your learner's permit. What the state did is if you came through a program, a school program, you could go for your license at 16 and a half. If you didn't, you had to wait till you were 17. So that's what they did, and they figured that the pressure on the parents would be enough because, back then we wanted our license. And I've had my license now, for 52 years. And no, I didn't pass it the first time. It took a second time to pass it, but I've passed it and I've kept it all these years. So what do you say? If you're a parent, grandparent, did your kids get a license? Are they waiting? If you're a grandparent, you still trucking your grandkids around? And they're 16, 17 maybe older? I don't know. We've been doing it, although we've been trying to wean them off. And I think in due time, we'll get the 16-year-old. She's driving, and that's encouraging, but she literally has to because her parents both work and her grandparents are busy. If she wants to get to where she's going to need to be self-sufficient, regardless of her social media exposure. Because sometimes you still need to do some stuff in person.
This is the Tech Mobility Podcast.
Every great business starts with a spark, but taking it to the next level takes strategy, connections, and capital. That's where Playbook Investors Network comes in. We're your strategic partner for accelerating growth, navigating challenges, and capturing market opportunities before your competition does. Your business is more than an idea. Let's make it an impact. Playbook Investors Network. Your future starts here. Learn more at pincommunity.org.
To learn more about the Tech Mobility Show, start by visiting our website. I'm Ken Chester, host of the Tech Mobility Show. The website is a treasure trove of information about me and the show, as well as where to find it on the radio across the country. Keep up with the happenings at the Tech Mobility Show by visiting techmobility.show. You can also drop us a line at talk@techmobility.show.
Are you tired of juggling multiple apps and platforms for meetings, webinars, and staying connected? Look no further than AONmeetings.com, the all-in-one browser-based platform that does it all. With AON Meetings, you can effortlessly communicate with clients, host virtual meetings and webinars, and stay in touch with family and friends, all in one place and for one price. Here's the best part. You can enjoy a 30-day free trial. It's time to simplify your life and boost your productivity. AONmeetings.com, where innovation meets connection. Get started today and revolutionize the way you communicate.
You've got the drive. You've got the vision. Now you need the right partner to make it happen. At Playbook Investors Network, we power ambitious leaders with the tools, insight, and investment connections to move faster, grow stronger, and lead markets. We're more than advisors. We're your co-pilots in success. Because in business, standing still is not an option. Playbook Investors Network, fueling ambition, delivering results. Visit pincommunity.org.